Everybody will use it, so.
Need a motion to go out of the closed session? Yes. We, adjourn the closed session. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're out of closed session. We'll open up now for the regular meeting. Thank everybody for coming tonight, both here in person and those, bringing in. For a moment of silence, I'd like to recognize the family body here. Many people that may have not known him, but he was here 20 years ago. He was a fixture in our community, and he's passed away. So we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. Let's have pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner Best for tonight will not be here. I know we're moving to public comment, and if you would, if you have comments on the budget or the road closing that based on our public hearings, let's hold those comments until then to be fresh at that point. So if we have any other comments or of any other topics, please come forward. Amy. No comment? Okay. So, Mayor's Minute, this is pretty unique for me. This is, I don't know how to explain it from one brother giving another brother proclamation, but I'm more than happy and honored to do it. So if you feel comfortable standing up here, and I'll be glad to read the proclamation. All right. Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's, you too, Bob. You'll get out of here.
Yeah.
Whereas Howard McCoy Braxton Jr. was born on December 9, 1940 in Scotland Neck, North Carolina. And whereas Howard attended Guilford College in Greensboro to receive his Bachelor of Arts degree in 1963, he received his master's degree in physical education from Appalachian State in 1966. In 1975, Howard earned his doctorate degree in education from the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. He spent 36 years as a teacher and principal, mostly in the Greensboro City Schools until his retirement in 1996. Whereas after his retirement, Howard and his wife, Patsy Pat, moved to Topsail Beach, where Howard became actively involved in the community and quickly gained the respect of Topsail Beach residents and property owners. And whereas Howard served as Topsail Beach Town Commissioner for 4 years and as mayor for 16 years, he was a member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary and served on the Kiwanis Board. He also worked with the Sea Turtle Program and was chair of Autumn of Topsail for 3 years. Howard found great joy in the town's annual festivities, and you could find him running around lending a hand wherever possible. Howard believed in the importance of public opinion. Before decisions were made, he encouraged residents to attend meetings and be involved with the topics of the time. And he says, this is Howard Braxton, mayor of Topsail Beach. Everybody remembers that. But elected for his 3rd term as mayor in November of 2015, Howard said he wanted to focus on completing the Time Center Park, beach nourishment during what was likely his last term. Whereas Howard has a strong commitment to his community, his greatest passion was his family. His wife Pat of 62 years, his son Bob, and grandchildren, McCoy and Claire, who were often heard him bragging about them. Therefore, I, Frank Braxton, Mayor of Topsail Beach, on behalf of the Town of Topsail Beach Board of Commissioners, honor Mayor Dr. Howard Braxton for his governorship, dedication, and allegiance while serving as the town of Topsail Beach. Proclaimed this 11th day of June of 2025. Thank you.
Yes.
What? Oh, okay.
You got all the time.
Well, I gotta cry a little bit. Oh. I think I do that on the telephone all the time, so don't ever think I'm hung up on you if you call. But I just gotta blow my nose and cry a little bit. You know, I've been hearing somebody for 62 years and not even a little bit. I'm just glad the dog's hanging in there with me. And he comes to Delson when it's time to go to bed and he goes and gets an Howard spot. But we dated for 2 years before we got married, so I say it's really 64 years that I put up with him. But he was a good man and he loved every one of you. If he knew somebody needed something, he'd go find it and get it to them. And whether they wanted it or not. Because if he gave it to them, then they had to take care of whatever it was. But he loved his son, and I think he loved me. He hung around anyway. 4 years that I worked at Appalachian before my retirement. There were a lot of things that I did in Boone. Not Boone, yeah, it was Boone. But we spent an awful lot of time on the road. If I wasn't coming home and he was coming there, or vice versa. Even the dog got tired of riding, and he'd get to where he didn't want to go that far just to see me. But many of you know we have a 20-year-old dachshund. So I don't know how long that's going to last either. But Bob is doing a wonderful job of keeping me moving and keeping me going. I'm going to get better at this. But I thank you again for all you did for us. I'll get the thank you notes out eventually by Christmas. Do any of you have any questions?
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
I don't have to stay for the meeting if she wants to. You don't have to stay for the meeting when she wants to. Approval of a regular agenda. Anyone have any changes or additions or?
Take a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
It carries. Okay, conflict of interest. Start at this end. No. No.
No.
No conflict of interest. Approval of the consent agenda. All read and looked at the backup data.
I'd like to add that I was at the meeting on May 15th. Flushed off.
Three resolution budget amendments for Rocky Mount Friday, is that just a name that's as a year?
That was in the back, Christina.
That's what you have in your hand.
Budget amendment, for Rocky Mountain.
Yeah.
Yes.
Any more information on that? Any correct?
We can, if you'd like to go, I can do it.
Anywhere from the agenda.
It doesn't commit us, does it? It's just needed to go in an application for a grant.
Correct.
You get finalization from the, cost.
The report should be done any day now, but the estimated, cost right now is at 500,000. So that's the number we're using. But it would be, if we're going to apply for the grant, it would be 66% of whatever the total cost ends up being, whether that's less or more than the 500,000.
Do we intend to fix the other streets where the houses are flooding during king tide? Like Carolina and,
If we're gonna have a discussion, we need to pull this off the agenda.
So, do we have a motion? to close it off the agenda?
Make a motion to take D off and put it as with our discussion.
Where would you like to put that?
When we do it as public work, 13A.
Okay, 13A.
Make a motion, to move, item D. Consent agenda into the regular agenda, 13A.
second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
I
Okay, the rest of the, consent agenda.
motion.
Second,
As amended,
as amended.
motion and a second, in favor? Aye. Consent agenda. Take care. So, item number 8, public hearing for road naming change from Beechwood Avenue to Forever Lane. I think Forever Lane, it used to be, or Forever Lane, it was changed, so we're just going back.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and the board. My name is Mike Dixon. I'm the addressing coordinator for Pender County. Let me just say, it's always a treat when I get to come visit my favorite beach town. So thank you for having me. I was contacted by a citizen who's a property and a homeowner on Beechwood Avenue, asking to rename the road because there is a duplicately named road just 0.3 miles away in Surf City called Beechwood Drive. If I may have the next slide, please. So in order to provide a safer 911 addressing system and to alleviate routing mishaps, a new road name shall be considered in compliance with North Carolina general statutes. The suggested road name, as mentioned a moment ago, is Forever Lane. And next slide, please. These photos come from a neighbor who was not one of the petitioners. Back in 2018, a Mrs. Dixon had her land cleared on accident because crews were supposed to go to Beechwood Drive in Surf City and clear some land. Next slide, please. Request for board action. So the main reason behind this is safety. Now we know all the local 911 responders probably know where Drive and Avenue are, but you never know. Somebody panicked in a 911 call might scream out the wrong name. God forbid, we don't want that. So in order to avoid conflicts and delays, we find it's very important to change the name of the road. Also, in compliance with the general statutes, public hearing notices have run in the Pender, Topsail, Post, and Voice. And we have placed notices in the county courthouse, in the Topsail Beach, and the Surf City post offices. Public hearing sign has also been posted at the entrance of the affected roadway. And last slide, please. So a little bit of code behind this. The Pender County Addressing Coordinator is authorized to determine the need for a new road name. And then if a private access easement is greater than 200 feet in length, the affected property owners may petition the addressing coordinator to name the road. The staff vetted the road name, and there are no similarly named roads anywhere else in the county. So we asked the board at this time to consider a resolution naming the private road from Beechwood Avenue to Forever Lane. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain them.
What happens after the public hearing?
So after the public hearing, assuming the vote is yes, I'll need to work with Rochelle. I don't know what the town code says regarding road signs, but we'll have to put a new road sign up there. I doubt my employers would pay for it. just to put that out there. And then of course I would send out letters to all the homeowners, letting them know that the road and the name of the road has changed. And also for those that have addresses on the road, their addresses will change. In conjunction with how address numbering is done in Topsail Beach, say for instance 424 Beechwood Ave is going to be 424 Forever Lane. So we'll simply change the road name, not the number part of the address. So nobody has to change the numbers on their houses.
So without any objections, when would you think this will all be completed?
In the county, we tell them that as soon as the new road sign is up, that's when the name change is official. So like immediately tomorrow, I'll start working. I'll send out letters. I'll change the GIS data and start working things on my end. So it could be days, it could be weeks.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It will be back to Strawberry Fields forever.
Yeah.
That's right.
So any other discussion? Any public comments?
I live at 438 Beechwood. Can I you guys go? Okay.
Oh, Lord, you.
I'm very loud, so microphones scare me. I just want to say we bought at 438 Beechwood Avenue and we love it. And of course, my friend just came to visit me and went to the wrong Beechwood because when she does the GIS, right, she went to the other one. We've had an ambulance come down to the wrong, so it's just, it needs to not be a Beechwood. I really appreciate it if you could change it. And it makes me happy because it'll be Strawberry Fields forever. So it makes me happy. So thank you. I hope you will do it, but I'm just happy to be here, whatever the street name it is, but I hope it's forever.
Ma'am, could you just state your name?
Oh, right, Jenny John,
Thank you.
Jenny John, John. Yep. Thank you.
Any other comments? Any comments from staff? Okay, I have a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed.
Strawberry Fields forever.
No, we haven't voted. Next public hearing is, the budget, proposed budget for 25-26. We have a motion, we open the public hearing. Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is open for, proposed budget. The whole room here.
Thank you.
So Rochelle's gonna take a second to change out the top slide. So when we had our last budget workshop, it was on a Thursday. And we had to put out the budget message by Friday.
which is a rather long document. And then we also had to put together the budget presentation to make sure it was in this packet last Friday. And so there are a couple of clerical errors, and we're going to point those out here as we go along. And the first one was on the actual first slide, where it still had last year's date on it for 24-25 budget. So Rochelle's making that change as we speak. She's going to pop it back up on the screen. All right, there we go. So this is our 25-26 budget presentation. Here today to thank you again, Mayor, Commissioners, here today to present the proposed budget for the next fiscal year. I do this each year when presenting a budget, and I actually took this from Mr. Rose, my predecessor. So I'm going to go ahead and use the quote. It's important to note, and I think it's critical because sometimes budgets are misunderstood, that the budget is truly a proposed plan for raising and spending money for specific programs, functions, and activities or objectives during the fiscal year. I emphasize the word plan. It is not meant to be cast in stone. And as good as our department heads are, as great as Connie and Rose are, nobody has a crystal ball. So things will happen. Things will come up that impact this budget. It's really a guiding document as to how we accomplish the goals financially to meet what we're going through. But understand that the budget will change over the course of the year. So as an overview, to go to the next slide, we started the process with our department heads just like we do every year in December. We then entered into a budget retreat with our commissioners in February, where we discussed goals and priorities. We also gave preliminary revenue and expense estimates at the time that were prepared by staff. We held 4 budget workshops this year, which we've never done before in Connie's 39 years here. So we had 2 in March, and I believe it was 2 in May. Here we are for the public hearing to receive input on the final budget ordinance. We go on to the next slide. Budget requirements, again, a proposed plan for raising and spending money for the fiscal year. Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act requires an adoption of the budget. We have to do that by June 30th. Spending is authorized through the town's board adoption of a budget ordinance. Pretty basic. What the budget does is really authorize spending through the town's adoption of the ultimate budget ordinance, which hopefully that will occur later this evening. So the top items in our board retreat back in February included the following items on the list. I'm going to go through each one of them with some description. For beach nourishment, as everyone knows, the town lost an appeal to FEMA and an arbitration hearing to FEMA for reimbursement after Hurricane Isaias that resulted in a $4 million shortfall in our BIS fund. To be able to continue funding the beach nourishment project cycle as laid out in the town's 30-year beach management plan, the BIS tax rate will increase this year from 6.75 cents to 14.5 cents. Beach nourishment is vital to our coastal community, protecting infrastructure, properties, and preserving the town's economic driver. The next item is our water quality. After completing the AIA study and reviewing the presentation from Rivers and Associates this past year, it became very clear that the future of the town's water system is on a sustainable path for years to come. With this confidence, we placed a strong emphasis on upgrading and reinforcing the system's infrastructure. Several key projects have been initiated or completed in the past year to ensure long-term reliability, safety, and efficiency. The most significant item in the last year or so was the AMI smart meter project, which was implemented back in the fall, fully completed sometime around the beginning of the year. We also started a 10-year fire hydrant replacement program. This year we replaced 10 hydrants, and we plan to replace 10 a year until we complete that. I think we have 93 total hydrants in town, and it costs about $14,000 per hydrant to replace them. So we budgeted for $140,000 this year again. We've got a ground storage tank service contract, which we've never had before. We did a well rehabilitation this spring, which was again a recommendation from the assessment that we had done. We've approved SCADA system upgrades. SCADAs are basically our computer system that operates our water system. The SCADA system is 15 plus years old. And again, you probably heard me say this before when I got here. It was on a computer that was 15 years old that was using Windows 7 as an operating system, and it was problematic. So it is a very basic tool. We're upgrading to a better SCADA system that will allow us to have more automations. It will allow us to not have to require staff to come in here on weekends in order to do water samples, things of that nature, runs reports for us. We're also going to a safer disinfection method. Again, we've been disinfecting our water here in town using chlorine gas for years. So we're going to a I'm going to say it wrong, Tom, hypochlorite. Thank you. For our new disinfection method. So together, these initiatives reflect our commitment to modernizing the town's water system while maintaining a strong focus on sustainability, safety, and service reliability. The next item up there is fire service. As we continue to transition from a volunteer department to a full-time department, we struggle with the challenges of recruitment and retention. This year's budget includes an additional fireman position, which would bring us to 9 full-time and closer to this board's eventual goal of 10 full-time firemen. We also continue to work on replacement and upgrade of equipment where necessary. We know we have a fire truck issue that is less than 5 years away. And of course, the board has placed a priority on that truck. And last, our new public safety building that we were allocated $8 million from the state about 18 months ago for us to build. The facility will accommodate fire and police functions that are sorely needed for the town. We had a 6-month pause of the project, as everyone knows, as we wrestled with a few different options, but are now on track and moving forward. Emergency planning, always a continuous item here in a island beach town. Our fellow through the UNC School of Government, Brody Andrews, is finishing up his year with the town this week and will present to you later this evening. I'm not going to steal his thunder, but just wanted to mention that this task has been a monumental one that began over 2 years ago with Ryan Bullard, the previous fellow. So stay tuned later on tonight. And I apologize to Brody in advance that he's last on the agenda.
Okay, I'll keep you all away.
There you go. Staff recruitment and retention. We completed a salary study this spring. It's been about 4 years from the last one. 4 years ago, we implemented the salary study, but not the COLA that was recommended with it. So we were instantly behind market. The results of our new study would put us at market as long as we also implement the recommended COLA, which is 3% as well. If we do, then in years to come, COLA should match CPI each year instead of us coming up with an arbitrary number to try and make up for inconsistencies. This current fiscal year, we have received 203 applicants for jobs with this town. This is a great sign and can be attributed to competitive salaries, a great benefits package, streamlined application process, and better outreach and marketing of open positions. Of those 203 applicants, 105 were for our fire department alone. 26 were for police department, and 49 were for our public works department. Wastewater. We continue to research options for sewer in the future. As one of the few beach towns left with septic, we know that eventually we will have to address some issues. There have been studies and discussions about providing wastewater treatment on island, but we must continue to research other options off island. Each of those have significant costs and challenges, but we must continue to move forward with investigating all of them. Soundside planning and stormwater and flooding issues. As we've noted the last 4 or 5 years around here, we continue to look at ways to address this. We are re-engaging our engineer on the Rocky Mount Sound Access Project, effectively going back to the drawing board, and we are applying for grants, one of which is on the agenda for tonight. We are looking at how we address tidal flooding, king tides, but also flooding from rain events. So we need to figure out the best way to keep water from coming in from the sound, but also be able to get water out from rain events while continuing to be environmentally responsible. Facilities planning. I've harped on this since my arrival 3 years ago, and my predecessor did as well. Our infrastructure is beyond its use, and in many cases limping along. As an example, we have spent $28,675.86 on HVAC in the last 3 years. $21,371.49 in this building alone. This is outside of what we pay for our normal annual maintenance agreement with our HVAC vendor. With a new public safety building, fire hydrant replacements, water meter replacements, and more, we are addressing these infrastructure issues, but it will take the next decade or more to see them through. The town can continue to keep its quaint, small town feel while modernizing these infrastructure issues, while modernizing and becoming more efficient in how we run it. We do have a line in our budget for capital improvement plan. We are setting aside 2 cents, which is about $150,000 in this year's budget, and hopefully future budgets for things like this. Financial planning. We have used First Trine Advisors, a financial advisor, for almost 2 years now. It's something many local governments do to assist them as they plan for the future, especially regarding large capital expenditures, which we are working toward. They will continue to help us with mapping all of this out in the proper order so we maximize our dollars spent in the right areas at the right time, using the right funding sources. And last on this list, master planning. Parks and Recreation master plan was completed by Dr. Herstein this past year. Our advisory board has been heavily engaged in determining the best path forward and make recommendations to this board. They are interested in grant opportunities that are out there, most of which will require some sort of match from the town to purchase equipment or complete any project. They are also looking at fundraising possibilities, so stay tuned. Next slide, please. I did want to point out on this slide, we put this budget presentation out last Friday in the packet, and we had an error. So the error is highlighted in yellow. If you have the budget presentation that went out in the packet on Friday, it actually had the exact same number here as the previous year, $3,492,545.21. It's actually $3,241,819.43. So I did want to clarify that here in an open meeting. So this year's recommended general operating budget is a balanced budget totaling $21,478,866.36 for the general fund, BIS funds, special funds, and the utility enterprise funds. This compares to amended budget of $21,395,764.40 in last year's budget. Next slide, please. All right, so here is the breakdown. The proposed budget has a tax rate increase to 51 cents per $100 in value. The rate breakdown is 34.5 cents for the general fund, 14.5 cents for the BIS fund, and 2 cents going to the CIP fund. This budget also does include a change in the recycling fee as we moved to curbside recycling back in January. The water facility fee and water rate structures have both increased. Again, this is based on a study that we had done with North Carolina Rural Water 3 years ago. So we raised them 2 years ago. We did not raise them last year, and the recommendation was again to raise them this year to keep on that scale. I'm gonna go ahead and go down the rabbit hole a little bit, but you all have probably heard me say in this before. We are in the red in our water fund, but a lot of that came because of that tower project that we did a few years ago. So we continue to get a letter each year from the LGC that we have to make corrections, and each year we've made corrections. We've come up with a plan, and so this is part of the plan is the rate structure adjustments. By this time next year, we should be in the black in that water fund, based on our projections. So I did want to point that out. So the facility fee for water has moved from $36 to $40. And the rate goes from 706 to 776 if you're at the base rate structure of 0 gallons to 3,333 gallons. So, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Yeah, enlarge this on my screen. So again, just kind of a recap of what's in the budget. There's beach nourishment funding. As a reminder, we have another project in about 3 years. The project that we did last year cost us somewhere around $26 million. Excuse me, of which our responsibility was somewhere around $7 million, give or take. Our beach engineer has recommended that we need to have a cushion of $12 million in our BIS fund to be ready for that next project. And we're about halfway there. This budget also includes the firefighter that I mentioned earlier. It includes some firefighting equipment, some police equipment, some public works equipment. It does include in the CIP fund, so the continuation of 10 fire hydrants replaced each year, plus funding towards that fire truck. The water fund, which again, I just mentioned, the SCADA upgrade. It does include the updated pay study recommendations, which include increased salaries to remain competitive. There are some personnel policy updates, pay and grade classification updates. It does include a 3% salary adjustment for all departments. Did want to note that this is down from the 5% that we have been doing for the last several years. Because again, the recommendation is that if we get to where we're supposed to be from a market standpoint, then we should be at COLA, which is CPI, which is about 3%. We also have in this budget for merit pay, which we started last year, which is up to 3% if employees rate that way in their evaluations. It has continued health benefits that cover our employees 100%. It includes capital improvement projects to be funded, a one-year fellow to assist with human resources functions next year. So next year, we will not be bringing in a fellow like we did this year and the year before for the emergency operations plan, because Brody has it 90% complete. And I'm going to throw that out there, and maybe Brody's going to put it in his presentation tonight, where he thinks he's at. But we felt that it was better served to bring someone in to help out with our HR functions, because we have a lot of HR things that need to be improved. And then again, this budget also includes the new public safety bill. Next slide, please. So just a visual. Revenues for the town's general fund are divided into several different major categories, as you can see here. So property tax, for example, this year is 43% of the revenue. Last year was 45%. Permit and fees last year was 12%. This year is 14% is what we're projecting. Capital reserve last year was 3%. Last year was 4%. Restricted funds such as the POW bill last year was 9%. This year is, where's that? Let's see it up there. Intergovernmental, 9%. Yep. No, I don't see POW bill on the chart. My apologies. Intergovernmental last year was 8%. On the chart this year is 9%. And then other taxes last year. So other taxes such as utilities, cable, sales and use, option 4 tax, things of that nature. Last year was 23%. And this year we're projecting 20%. Next slide, please. This is again a carryover from my predecessor, where he put the dollar up there to kind of give an idea of how things are spent. So this year, administration should make up 23.9% of that dollar. Last year it was 25.5%. Police this year would be 23.3%. Last year it was 24.7%. Fire this year will be 18.8%. Last year it was 17.7%. So the fire is going up. Public works this year will be 13.1% of the dollar. Last year it was 17.4%. Solid waste this year we're projecting 9.3%. Last year was 10.4%. And Bush Marina this year is 0.7%. Last year was 0.8%. Beach management tourism this year is 5.3%. Last year it was 3.5%. So that's going up, but that's because we shifted some things out of the BIS and we put it in beach management tourism. Inspections and planning, I didn't have that up there last year, but it's 4.6% this year. We didn't have it on the dollar last year. Next slide, please. Total budget expenditures, so personnel last year was 38%, this year will be 44%. And again, with a salary study, being implemented with that, you would expect that would go up. Operating expense last year was 55%, this year will be 49%. Debt service last year was 4%, this year, will be 3%. And capital outlay last year was 3%, and this year will be 4%. And that pretty much sums up my budget presentation. Thank you.
Any questions from the board or? Before I go into, public comment, we had two, comments that come in. One was from Kathy Arab. She was concerned about raising taxes this year and next. May Forsyth, longtime residents, and she wants to preserve the quaint atmosphere of our town. The next one was from, Frank Sharon. He encouraged us to, he was opposed to a tax increase and wanted to return to a zero-based budget, to address basic service levels. And, the only way we can really do that is look at what the service that you all want and have been provided and seeing what it's going to cost us, and then apply that back to a tax rate.
Please don't have said something less than 11 cents. I'm not opposed to a tax increase, something less than 11 cents.
Okay, let's, public comment. Let's open it up. Okay.
Alex Arab, 821 North Anderson Boulevard. As some of you know, I regularly kayak in the ocean. At times, it is difficult to ascertain my exact direction. Geometry class taught me that you need at least 2 fixed points to determine your direction. This is difficult when you're off the coast of Topsail Beach with very few visible structures, especially on a foggy day. When the fog clears, I'm usually way off course. When thinking about the proposed 2025 budget, we should also look at the direction of the general fund. This would require us to find another fixed point. In 2019, after the last property reassessment, the tax rate for everything but renourishment was 18.75 cents on the 100. The 2025 budget proposes a rate of 36.5 cents. That is a more than 94% increase in 6 years. Admittedly, part of the increase is due to the fire department transitioning from volunteer to paid firefighters. However, the increase should be partially mitigated by the construction of a number of large homes and automation of water meter reading. Therefore, this growth in the general fund budget can't be blamed solely on the fire department. With minimal town growth in the last 6 years, our expenses have exploded. Based on the water meter numbers, our town growth rate over the last 10 years has been about 1%. When some of our commissioners asked questions attempting to reduce costs associated with fire protection, truck purchases, and salary survey increases, a majority of the commissioners did not seem interested in looking at those opinions. They swiftly approved the most recent budget without much public debate. Many of us did not want a tax increase for a new building. However, a majority of you voted to spend $1 million more than the grant amount. This was after a majority of you voted not to consider an option to renovate all buildings for less than $8 million. We need you, the commissioners, to examine and better scrutinize our general fund spending. Why do we need a tax increase when we still have a large surplus, which is not reflected in any public document that I could find? How might some of that surplus be spent? Years ago, the board or the mayor gave the town manager authority to spend up to $50,000 without any approval. Are those expenditures ever made public or reported to this board? This growing tax rate is unsustainable for me and many others. The staff proposes a plan, but it is up to you, sitting in front of us, to protect us from wasteful spending of our tax dollars and consider every option that could prevent an oversized town budget. We, the people, are relying on you. The fog has been lifted. We are way off course. It is time to rein in spending. Thank you.
Thank you. Well. Other comments? We speak now. Board, is everyone comfortable at this point, or do they feel we need to revisit? I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Do I have a motion to close public hearing?
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Okay, number 9, let's discuss and consider the vote on the road naming change from Beechwood to Clover Lane.
I would like to make a motion to let it go back to being property bills throughout it.
So it's just forever. Okay, the same.
Property bills and make it throughout.
Yeah, okay. So I have a motion and a second to, correct the name. All in favor?
Aye.
It passed. Congratulations. Okay, update from Parks and Recreation Board.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I apologize, Chairman cannot be here tonight. He was called away on a family emergency, so she did write up a little statement for me to read as an update. Parks and Recreation Board met on June 3rd to narrow the items that they've been discussing over the last 3 or 4 months. They've narrowed it down to a couple of projects that they would like to do further investigation on if the board agrees with these 2 projects. They would like to further investigate replacement of the existing playground equipment. If you guys have heard, I think that we've been looking into replacing the playground equipment for a while now, a couple of years. It is definitely getting to the end of its lifespan. The last inspection report has listed a few maintenance concerns. Of course, being in this sort of environmental conditions, that definitely adds to the wear and tear of it. The cost of replacing the equipment would likely range anywhere from 150 to 200,000. That's kind of where they're getting estimations right now. The second item that they would like to do further investigation on is purchase of signage at the town center area. They would like to have this for the ability to inform residents and visitors of town center activities. The signage could enhance the aesthetics of the town center area, and it could be a means to display digital information that could be easily and quickly changed, as well as a structure to which banners and other information could be attached for town concerts and things like that. But the types of signage and costs are unknown right now. They are just asking for the blessing to move forward with just investigating and bringing back information to the Board of Commissioners. That is it.
Board, any discussion?
I have a question. On the agenda for Parks and Rec, there was an item about setting up a commemorative thing at the park. Was that discussed?
That was discussed. An outside member came in and made a request to the board that, in memory of a player that had passed on, they would like to make a donation to somehow enhance the pickleball court. They talked about a couple of different ideas, but there was no decision made on that. It was just a presentation.
The decision wasn't referred to any other group like us or anyone?
No, I think that they just kind of wanted to let staff also think about maybe some of the needs for the pickleball court. If there was anything that we felt that a donation could be used for us to maybe go in on with them and make an enhancement.
Okay.
But that hasn't been discussed with staff yet.
I have questions. The park equipment, the replacement that has been done finally looks great. Thank you. Is there any way we could consider, residents, like we, do benches and things like that, donations to sponsor certain equipment maybe, or
Yes, that is
discussion?
part of the discussion, and in both of these items. You know, funding is definitely the issue.
Right,
so-
that would help.
Yeah, so they have already, very preliminarily discussed grant funding, of course, private donations. You know, they talked about different things like having the benches, somebody could sponsor that, or maybe putting plaques out at the park for a certain amount of donations. So, that's all being discussed and will be discussed further as part of, you know, further investigation.
And I think we've talked about signage for many years here, and the problem is that if it's electronic, it's not gonna last. You'd ask the police department about our speeding signs that don't last long. So that's the issue with signage. And in the social media environment that we're in, I'm not sure if a signage would actually help, but nothing electronic, I would hope that they would consider. And then it would have to be manual, and I think it would just be a high maintenance thing. But third thing I'd like to ask you is, why are we not having beach sweeps this year?
Well, first I want to address the signage. They are investigating the idea of digital signage, but I think, obviously there's a lot of concern with that in this type of environment. So I think that's part of the whole investigation, having someone come out and really talk to us about, you know, what we could have and what are our options and what kind of a lifespan would that be. And as far as beach sweeps, to be honest with you, we've had them, the last however many years.
5 years.
Yeah, the last probably 2 years, we've just gotten a lot of feedback from people who are volunteering their time, that there's nothing out there to pick up. You know, we even have those who have agreed to stay at the sites to hand out the bags and things like that, and they say no one shows up. And so honestly, we just didn't have them this year for that reason.
So I helped start this thing 5 years ago with Mayor Smith, and we started with, I believe it was a military recruitment organization started it, and we went on from there. The challenge, and it's always been a challenge, to get people to come, and we actually did have, it was hit or miss. But this area right here was probably the most active area for participation. And I monitored this one particular area for a long time. And we've had people come, teachers come from Jacksonville. We've had Girl Scouts, Cub Scout groups. And I just think that it should have been looked into a little more. To say that we're not picking up garbage, I'd like to see staff go out there after the 4th of July and tell me how much fireworks are laying around and who's gonna pick them up. And I hear it, our residents clean up the beach when they walk the beach. They do not walk on 110-degree sand. They do not walk along the dune where all the plastic and paper flow, and it's all caught in the seagrass. The people that come to the beach cleanups, we make a line and they go all the way up, and they even ask me, can I go on a dune or am I gonna get a $500 fine? I have pictures of bags of garbage that we fill up. So I really think that this should be reconsidered, and I hope staff goes out there to clean the beach after the 4th of July. Because that was our biggest pickup day, the weekend after the 4th of July weekend, of firecracker material, paper that blows all over the place. And I think that should be revisited, and I think if it was a little more attention. I'll say one more thing, and I don't mean this. I don't think there's been a staff person here to physically see a beach sweep in the last couple of years. Thank you.
One thing, if you are gonna pursue it, why not do it for the week of July 4th,
Well, that was typically, we would do them on the Saturdays after the holiday.
for the holiday?
So we've done that 5 years in a row. But again, it was really based on feedback from, those who have volunteered their time to come and sit at an access and wait for people to come so they can hand out bags and of course collect the trash afterwards. And every time it just seemed that they were like, nobody came.
And it may be having it at every access isn't needed.
Well, we don't have them at every access.
When we first started, we did the accesses that were most busy, south of the Sea side. This one is the most busiest, obviously, and we did up
I think
at
there's 4.
Rocky Mountain, and we did the one up at Queens Ranch. But again, it's hit or miss. We've canceled them when it's rained. I'm just very surprised that we're just walking away from this. But then again, let's see how clean our beach is after the 4th of July weekend.
Or let's look at putting them back into place and give them.
We can do that if that's what the board would like to do.
I'd like to see the Parks and Recs get involved with it and see, and have their opinion of it. They wanted to get involved with it in the past.
Well, they won't meet again until after the 4th of July, so I don't know if you want to go ahead and, you know, reinstate them from this point forward. We're happy to do so.
Can they call another meeting to address it?
We could find out. I mean, it's based upon availability.
Who,
I'm not really sure what, you know, what we want them to,
well, if they're gonna be the lead agency to coordinate this, then they need time to get going. And, who provides the bag?
the town does.
The time does?
Mhm.
We had the DOT donated, Lowe's donated, gloves and
Oh, yeah, we have,
cans. Everybody's donated to help us with this project in the past.
Is that material still available?
We ask the residents, do they participate in if they want to continue doing it?
You have to message it. It's kind of late to message.
Yeah.
For the last couple of years, it was the consistent people, the consistent renters that happen to be here after a holiday would come. Some of the, monitors at the accesses would make brownies. I'm not gonna pull out any names. Try to get people to come to their access for line. But it never works. It needs, it's either gotta be an effort or it has to be an effort. The concern I have, if there's no effort, then okay, then let's not have it. But somebody's gonna have to clean that beach. We're still gonna have people on that beach, the day trippers, and yeah, most of them are gonna put their garbage in the garbage can. But it's more than just garbage, it's sunglasses, it's beach shovels, it's all kinds of stuff that we pick up. They leave the tents that, the ones they put up, the poles, and they just leave it on the beach. We picked up those. The plastic bags. I mean, I'm just saying, if we don't do this, we need to have public works out there for someone cleaning our beach.
So a couple of quick comments. One is our staff does go out there. There's a dumpster out back. If you want to, there's about 37 boogie boards and probably 12 tents and beach chairs and you name it. So we keep a dumpster back here for that exact reason. Our staff is out there constantly. We also go out there and do we catch everything? No, we don't catch everything. But we are out there. I did also want to mention one of the other things that was discussed in the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting was whether or not to accept donations through the town or to create a Parks and Rec Foundation of 501c3. So there was some discussion going back and forth on that with more discussion to come. So I did want to update that.
Does this board will give any guidance of assigning this week to a Parks and Recreation Board?
Like I said, I think it's too late.
Yeah, I'm talking about next year. If we're
What
gonna
about the one that,
do that. I'm getting time to.
Like I said, you need to get someone, Park and Recs, if they want to get involved to do it, somebody has to take it over and manage it.
we can put it,
I don't think that can be decided tonight.
we can put it on the agenda at the next Parks and Rec board if you like, for discussion.
we got it.
All right. Update from planning board.
So there actually was no planning board meeting, so there's no update.
Update BIS committee. All right.
The last time BIS met was, the afternoon before your last Board of Commissioners meeting, so I really don't have a whole lot to report. except that our next meeting will be next Thursday at 2 o'clock. We will have an update on Rocky Mount and beach projects on our agenda. I talked to Chris, today, with TI Coastal, and they've got the beach survey going on right now. They're processing the data. In case y'all don't know, we do a beach survey before hurricane season every year, so we can assess if we have any damage or erosion to our beach. That helps us with any sort of FEMA reimbursement we might or might not get. He also gave us an update on the Surf City Beach Nourishment Project, which ended up moving 585,000 cubic yards. Last project we had, we moved 1.8 million cubic yards. So, but they did have a successful project. We got an update on finances, but the last thing I really want to say is that we were able to attend most of the budget workshops, and we made recommendations and we were heard, and that's very much appreciated. That's all I got. Any questions?
Yeah, I didn't look from Barker into Bank Challenge. I didn't go to the Curious anything about when or what, when they'll be doing either.
Well, basically what you have to do is reach out to the Corps of Engineers to get them to do the sound survey. And Chris has updated us, said that they will not take their data. The Coast Guard will not take TI Coastal data, even though we have recent sound surveys, and I think, in May. So it's really the Army Corps of Engineers that got to come and do the survey for the Coast Guard to place the markers.
Is there anything we can do to speed that up?
We
I know
re-
where some of the sandbars are now.
Well, I mean, we can reach out to the Corps of Engineers to get them to do that, but I don't know what kind of response we get in terms of the town, reaching out to them. I could personally call them, but I don't think I have that authority, you know?
When is that survey gonna be completed?
They're processing the information now, so it should be within the next couple of weeks.
At your meeting, you'll have it?
Well, our meeting is next Thursday. I doubt we'll have it then, but I can talk to Chris
Well,
Gibson
just,
about that.
yeah, I'd be curious to see, how much sand we've lost since that last renourishment or last survey.
Yes,
Is that, we're
that would
talking
be
about
good to know.
winter weather.
I think right now we can all, well, I should not speak about not data. I think we can all say we have a really great beach at this point in time. And I would also hasten to add that when we talked about Howard Braxton, I always like to thank our forefathers because of the vision that they had and what we're benefiting from right now. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
They probably were.
First off, after the renaming of the street, signs are about 2 weeks. I don't know what the process is, if we have an, protocol in place, if we order those, or what do you want me to do?
Well, it is private street, but I'm looking at Christina to figure out how we've handled that in the past.
I've heard it both ways, that we've ordered them and then bill them. Okay. So, yeah, so right now it's about a 2-week process to get one of those. The update on some projects that happened since we last met, staff painted the garage doors at the marina. Coastal dock builders were also on site down at the marina to repair, some of the boat slips, some of the cleats. We redecked completely one of the docks, replaced a bunch of the bumpers around that were broken. Staff repaired the netting at the pickleball courts. Basketball courts were painted last week. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to look at that, but that looks really good. So that we use that as kind of a test for what we could do this fall. And it looks like, we were successful. So hopefully we'll get the pickleball courts done, sometime in the off season. Total usage, for the rinsing stations for May was 3,500 gallons total between the 4, stations. 1,300 of those gallons were Memorial Day weekend. The banners for the Topsail Sounds concert series came in. We initially got 3 of those. We had permission to put those on telephone poles. That permission was then denied once the banners came in. So we kind of pivoted. We put one by the park and one in the south end parking lot on poles we already had. We kept the third one as a backup, just in case something happens to one of the other 2. Not sure why we were denied that after we were granted permission from the power company, but it happened. But the bad news is the grant I've applied for the beach crossover, through, Division of Coastal Management. They received $4.2 million in requests and they had $2.4 million available for funding. They were focusing this time on new construction. And of course, ours were, repairing current crossovers. They thanked us for our commitment to what we're doing and want us to apply again in the next, go around, which we will gladly do. The last thing I wanted to talk about is stormwater. I know we're going to talk about Rocky Mountain after this. With all the rain that's been given, we've seen an uptick in complaints that we've had about laying water. It's important to know that the difference in the basins and the storm drains that are in town. Of course, everything is NCDOT storm drains, but what you see, especially on the north end, where you think it's a storm drain, is actually just an infiltration basin. It's not an actual drain. These basins just catch the water. There's pipes that go out both sides there's 6-inch pipes that go about 4 feet out and just dissipates the water. So they're not actual drains. And the drains we do have not been maintained as well as they should have. I've sent pictures and requests to the DOT this past week. I've encouraged citizens as they email, call me. I've given DOT contact information to have them reach out to them, try to get something done, because the problem's not getting, any better as we've seen. And that's all I have for tonight. If you have any questions.
Any questions? There's no parking on the access, beach access.
The signs are up.
Without signs, you're not paving the curb. Where we had the blind spots that we talked about.
Yeah, the signs are up. We did, I don't remember what we decided on the curb, but we didn't, did we?
Yeah.
So there are no parking signs.
The no parking signs are up at all.
As of about a week ago.
Yeah, about last Friday, the last one came in.
Will we be painting the curb or because I thought we didn't want any more signs.
I think we're even talking about a bollard.
So we had some concerns with bollards. We had some concerns with painting. We felt like put bollards up, people are still gonna try to park their golf carts in between the bollards. If you paint the curb, people will, claim that they didn't see the painted curb. If you have a sign up, there's no argument. There's a sign there that says no parking, and Christina was gonna make another point.
Yeah, also the ordinance that we drafted with the assistance of DOT, that actually is to get approved by DOT, says that there'll be signage placed there. So that was one of the other concerns.
So if you would like us to paint the curb, we would have to go back to DOT to request to paint the curb in the right of way, as I believe, is that correct?
Well, I think the curb would be fine to paint if we were gonna leave the signs up. I meant we can't do it in place of signage.
Because that's what we requested from DOT.
Correct, and that's what the ordinance language is, that if there's signage indicating no parking.
And I don't know the exact number, but there was numerous accesses already had some sort of sign there. There was already a post there with a different sign, so we just put the sign on the post, so we didn't have to put a new post up.
All of those, beach access have automatic cutoff.
Yes. They'll have automatic cutoffs. They're all, smart metered, and being monitored. I'm checking the usage weekly, but we will get notification if there is a leak.
We also have the ability to turn off the water at those locations.
Yes.
If we enter into
If we get into
water situation.
if we were to get into mandatory water restrictions, they would be turned off.
If you don't mind, Mary, if I could ask, and probably Christina would need to get to the podium on this and just kind of update Tom and Christina on where we are on the Drome Avenue, wall. The seawall.
I did meet with the contractor this morning to set up our online portal account to get the CAMA permit process going. So he's got plans to have signatures and fill out the camera permit process now. That's what he's doing now. So, I suppose once all that gets underway, it'll probably be about 20 days before he can get the permit potentially. And then I would imagine he'd start construction very soon after that. So,
So it's in his schedule to move.
oh yeah, he's ready. Matter of fact, he came in today to get the adjoining property owners' contact information. I even spoke with them on the phone. They were very happy to provide whatever the town needed to get the permit.
And as a reminder, this is a total replacement of the seawall section at Drum Avenue,
And who's doing
not a
the work?
repair. Crystal Dock Builders.
Any additional questions? Thank you, Tom. All right, 13A, the approved resolution and budget amendment for Rocky Night project grant.
One of my other favorite subjects. So as you know, we have been contracted with Jonathan Hinkle and his various agencies that he's been with since actually 2021, specifically for Rocky Mount. We did contract with him in 2019 originally for a larger feasibility study, but in 2021, we contracted with him for the Rocky Mount project. So this has been a very long ongoing project with a lot of moving parts, a lot of changes to the scope of work. And so here we are waiting any day now for the report. He's really just finalizing that up. But in the meantime, he had a conversation about a potential grant opportunity. And as he explained the grant or the project, this person thought that this would be a very good project, would fit the grant eligibility. And so he reached out and said, do you guys want to try? And of course, staff discussed it. We've spent a lot of money in 4 years on this design, and it would be a shame for us to just sit the plan on the shelf and not move forward with it. So again, the estimated cost of the project for Rocky Mount would be around $500,000. This particular grant, which is the Water Resources Development Grant through DEQ, would be responsible for 66% of the total cost of the project, whatever that might be. Again, we're estimating at 500,000.
According to this thing, it says 330,000 or 60%, whichever is less.
300, it would be 300 and,
30,000 or 66%, whichever is less.
I have that one. Oh yeah, I do have it. Whichever is the lesser amount. Yeah. So that's going to be what they will pay, and then the town will be responsible for whatever that 33% balance would be. Now, I will tell you also that the contract that we have with Bolton and Mink, the company that Jonathan works for currently, is about $43,000 for him to finish up what he had to finish up on this project. We can actually claim that towards our 33% sort of match, like as in-kind services. So as far as funding from the town, we would probably be looking at about 125, maybe 135,000 from funding of the town, when you also include that $43,000 contract that we have with Bolton and Mink. Now, again, this is only if we get the grant. Right now, this resolution doesn't obligate us to anything. It just says that this is part of the application process that they need. We would be enlisting the services of Jonathan's firm to apply for us on behalf of the town, and that is about $3,000 for his firm to do that. So that would be something we would be committing to, is that $3,000 to pay his firm for that.
Do we know, Christina, what the fix is and how effective it's gonna be?
Well, we do know now that it's going to be a bulkhead with the drainage system, piping, culverts. But yeah, I mean, I don't have the plan yet, but that's pretty much what we've instructed is for them to do the bulkhead and connect it to the adjoining property.
When do we receive this money if we receive the grant?
The application date is June 30th. So I'm not sure when the grant would be awarded after that.
And is there other consistent sound side flooding besides Kennedy and Carolina?
I mean, we certainly have other areas for sure.
A few years ago, we did a study, and it came out that the Rocky Mountain was probably the worst, and that we had other areas.
And why? Because of the number of houses that
Some
flood.
houses in the mountain. How low lying it is.
So-
That group actually said that.
So I'm gonna comment here and go off a little bit of recollection, and Christine, you can help me out with this, but I believe we determined that there were 7 hotspots.
Mhm.
And although there might be areas that flood more than Rocky Mount, the actual impact on property is worse at Rocky Mount. So I'll use the example of the area on South Anderson between Clark and Florida. I would argue that that area floods the most, but the impact on actual property, like homes, is not like it is in the other areas. So that's why it didn't rank as high. It's on the list. I think it ranked as our top 3
Yeah.
because it made it into the RCCP Phase 3 project.
it
And then when we went to apply for RCCP Phase 4, it was in there, but we didn't get the funding.
Correct.
And it was one of the 3 out of the 7 that would have been, had we gotten that money, would have been taken care of. So yes, it floods much more between Clark and Florida, but the impact on actual building structure.
Houses flooding.
Correct.
Yeah,
And how many houses flood on Rocky Mountain?
Do you remember the answer? I mean, I haven't looked at that.
There's Neil, you know,
But
how
I will-
many Neil?
I mean,
2?
it depends on, it affects more than that. But we have certain properties where they can't get to their property. Whereas something like with the flooding over in South Anderson, the right of way is much wider. So it really just affects the driveway and the right of way area. So it doesn't affect the actual home, the structure. You can still get to the home.
It's not gonna be, it's not gonna be 100%. We'll mitigate it some.
Sure.
No way with nature, it's not gonna be 100%. That's what we need to be 100%, so we can at least mitigate it to the point that we're stopping some of the.
Well, I mean, you also have, I mean, again, we're on a barrier island and our water table is what, 1.5 feet? Something like that. I mean, so, the water can only go so many places in so fast.
And also, I just want to say too, that for this particular project here, we pulled out the past invoices, and I mean, we're at 65,000 already that we've paid for this engineering firm. And now we've also, signed another contract for 42,000. So, we've spent a lot of money on a project for a design that I think if we have an opportunity to implement this would be the one we would want to move forward with.
Since we're in a budget meeting, where's the money gonna come from?
We'll let Connie talk about that.
We propose to do a budget amendment tonight since this is gonna occur before June 30th. And we're amending the capital option 4 tax. We collected over 121,000 from our budget number. So we're asking to increase that by 141,973. And then on the expense side, we would have the capital outlay Rocky Mountain project for 141,973, excuse me. If we do not get the grant, this money just stays in fund balance. But we do not have any money currently in the proposed budget for this particular project. So that's the reason we're proposing this budget amendment tonight.
So basically, it's an overage of what we had collected on revenues for option 4 taxes. And we've proposed that with this overage, we set that aside for this particular project if we are awarded.
Could we not just see if we get the grant and then amend the budget at that point in time? No.
Well, the budget, excuse me, I'm sorry. But we were taking the money out tonight from this current budget that we're in, that we're operating on right now. And you know, if we do that, if we do it in the next budget, we'll be doing a budget amendment from the fund balance.
Yeah,
Basically.
and that's what I'm saying is just wait and see if we get approved applying for the grant, and then if we get it, does it make a difference to you whether we do a budget amendment? Or
No, ma'am, it's whatever the board wants to do.
So we're making a motion, we approve, we make a motion that we all make that motion, this in the consent agenda.
Well, you'll have to make a motion to approve the resolution if you so wish to do so, in order to have that included in the application packet. That needs to be submitted by June 30th.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution, and budget amendment for Rocky Mount Friday grant opportunity.
I would make well, we can't make a motion, you got one on the table.
I'll second it.
Do we have a motion and a second?
What's the motion?
To approve resolution to set that budget amendment for Rocky Mount Friday grant opportunity.
We don't have to do that. Right now.
Just send the grant in, we do.
No, we don't.
But we're approving the grant, apply for the grant. You said we had to have a motion to apply for the grant.
And that's all we need is a motion to apply for the grant.
Yeah, we don't need the, first of the fund.
Hey, we're talking about that for, about the apply for the grant. Yeah, that's what I was
We
saying.
did amend the budget.
So there's no budget amendment, just the application to apply for the grant.
Just the resolution.
Resolution.
I second. Approving the resolution to apply for the grant.
It's already been on the table.
We've got a motion on the table, y'all.
Do you want to amend your motion to,
Well, that's what I said. I know I said the exact words y'all want to say, I said that.
because we gotta make it complicated. So. Yeah,
Well, we started making on it, not the budget.
right.
What is the resolution?
Resolution,
Apply for that grant.
yeah, positive.
Michelle, you have the resolution?
It should be in your.
No, the motion, I mean, the motion. Somebody please read the motion to me.
Motion to approve the resolution to apply for the grant.
Period.
No. Yeah, it's okay.
And we have a second. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second, that fail vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you.
Any more confusion? Okay, here we are at the, budget ordinance. Item number 14.
All right, thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. We completed our budget hearing this evening. With the adoption of the proposed budget ordinance, the town would be allocating funds totaling $21,478,866.36. This is based on revenue estimates, including property tax fees, state share revenues, and potential grants. The proposed budget this year will increase the tax rate to 51 cents per $100 valuation. The entire amount will go to general fund with a rate of 34.5, 14.5 to the BIS, and 2 cents to go into the CIP. This budget does propose an increase to the solid waste recycling fee by $9, as we have implemented a curbside recycling program in January. It proposes an increase to the water facility fee to $40, and the water rate fee will increase to $7.76 from $7 as a base starting rate. You can see the fee schedule is in your packet regarding that. As required by North Carolina law, the revenues and expenditures are balanced. There are two recommended motions on the floor for you all to discuss and consider.
Move to accept the tax rates for 26 fiscal year at 51 cents per hundred.
No.
You got a motion?
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second, any further discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna oppose this. Those that haven't watched all 4 or 5 of our budget meetings, as many as we have, found 1.3 million in reserves, and we discussed this. Staff supplied us with 3 years of history on this reserve fund that we have of $1.3 million. For the last 6 years, we've only used $300,000. I'm rounding everything off, and we've always put 300,000 in. You can look at the budget meetings that we've had, and we've discussed this. Staff has supplied us with 3 years of this same rotation of funding. Our auditor for the last 7 years, when he audits our reserves, he says we're 130% over on our reserve fund. So I went and talked to a lot of towns, beach towns, inland towns, anybody that would actually share the information. Everybody calculates 30%. Surf City, 30%. I recommended we move $1 million of that $1.3 million that have been sitting there for 7 years in our reserve fund. We're not spending it, we're moving it. I recommended we move $1 million. That's about 13 cents of taxes. Staff advised it could be done. They came back and said, we're gonna move money into the capital reserve. So this reserve fund. So what's the priority? Is it the capital reserve or is it the BIS? Capital reserve, as you heard, we get grants and we have funding available to us. There's no funds for sand. And if you watch TV, there might not even be a FEMA. Capital reserve projects are already in our budget. I asked our financial person, why did the money go into the capital reserve fund? He mentioned fire hydrants, already in the budget. We're replacing 10 a year. This is our 3rd year. Fire truck. Our financial advisor advises everybody finances a fire truck. Everybody, we have since I've been a commissioner, fire equipment, finance. Capital projects, again, capital projects are already in the budget. So what's the priority? Is it capital improvements or BIS fund? Mine is the BIS fund. Because without the BIS fund and without a beach, we have no capital project need. Western North Carolina, governor's still trying to get funding from them. What's the priority? BIS fund or capital project? Move $1 million into the BIS fund. Reduce this tax rate by 10 cents. That's doable. It's standard, 30% reserve. Why didn't our financial advisor, who's been working for us for multiple years, not try and help us with that? I heard there might be some agency that, government agency that might, whatever. 8 years ago, we were 30% reserve. I don't remember as a commissioner getting any notes or letters from any agency about our tax budget, our tax dollars and how we spend it. So I'm not gonna vote for this budget. I'm not voting for a tax increase when we have $1 million sitting in a reserve fund for the last 6 or 7 years. It's not used. We're not spending it. If we need it, we can take it out of BIS and use it for whatever. But to tax us, tax me, I'm a taxpayer. I don't want to pay this increase in taxes when I know there's $1 million sitting there. And to put it into capital reserve. So that's how I feel about it. Every commissioner here knows about the capital reserve fund, the rotation of funds, of in and out funds of that capital reserve fund that was shared by staff. So we know we're able to do it because our staff decided to move it into move reserve funds into capital reserves. So it can be moved.
Into the CIP.
Yes, $400,000. So we still have $600,000 in the reserve over what we should have, in my opinion.
The one thing, that's a static money, so it's not hooked to a rate. So when we move it, it's a one-time move. And so next year, if we have short-sightedness, we're gonna end up with a tax rate increase next year. to make up for that difference. So, you know, we've done this here in the last 8 years that I've been involved in, budgets that we tried to avoid any rate increase. And we just pushed it down the hill to the point where, the hills, we no longer have a hill to go. So we've got to make up some difference. And it's just going to continue to get worse if we're not. And I don't want to say, okay, we're going to have a couple of cents this year, or take a couple of cents off. And then next year, when we have a reevaluation, we may have to add a penny or two. And then, everybody's mad again at the same time. So, it's a hard decision for us if we have to pay the same taxes that you do. And it's not like we're doing this without forethought. I am worried that I don't want to come up short on our capital reserve, because that capital reserve, is something we have to dig into if there is a storm. And I've been here through Florence, Bertha, Fran. It's a hell. And, it takes money to run the town because they couldn't get here. I remember walking down, trying to go from here down to my house in the south end, and all the street signs were at my waist. So that was how much sand was across the beach. It had to be moved from FEMA. I'm not sure if FEMA's going to be around, or it's not going to be around at the same level we're at. So I'm cautious about taking money out of one reserve and throw it in another, and then we got to make it up again. So that's where I stand.
I appreciate Tim's presentation on the impact here. What he is suggesting is that we move what is capital reserve into BIS, which is a fund that pays recurring expenses. And as those expenses are paid out and that fund diminishes, then we're going to be in this same situation in a few years, except it's going to be magnified because we've been kicking the can down the road for the last several years. And if we continue to do that, then in another 2 to 4 years, you're going to be looking at a much, much larger tax increase so that we can cover our costs. And we need to just go ahead and bite the bullet and say there's going to be a cost to run the town if the BIS incurring expenses keep the beach beautiful. And let's just go ahead and start down that road.
I'm going to add to my comments. In the last 8 years, all the storms we've had, we've used no money out of that reserve fund. Not one penny. Not one penny came out of that reserve fund for Florence or any other storm that we've had. This is all public. You can all look at it and see. It's in all our audits every year. We're not spending the money, we're moving it. And if we need to move it again, we can move it. But this priority, my priority is the BIS fund, not the reserve fund, not capital fund, BIS fund.
The point there is that you're moving capital reserve, which is supposed to be spent for one-time needs, into a recurring expense fund. And if we do that, then every year that fund is going to drop down. And ultimately, we're going to be in the same situation that we were several years ago, except the general fund was too low for us to avoid a tax increase. And so we started stealing contributions to we stole contributions. Basically, we borrowed from the BIS fund to avoid tax increases. And now that's caught up with us. And now we're looking at a tax increase as a result of what we did several years ago. And we said at that time that we would replace the money over a period of maybe 2 years. And now it's 4 years later, and we still haven't even gotten a quarter of the way towards replacing the money that we stopped putting into the BIS fund. And now we're in trouble. And we can just keep kicking the can down the road. We use the term a lot, you guys, of we're playing a shell game, and we're moving money around where you can't even keep track of it. And we got to quit doing that and just say, look, what is going to be capital money is going to stay capital money, and what is going to be recurring expenses, we're going to find a different way to pay for it.
And I'm somewhere in the middle in that I look at, honey, I don't want to disrespect it. It's basically this money is a big old pair of cargo pants with pockets all over. As long as you don't take the money out of the pants, the money's still there, just as in the pocket on the leg, not the pocket at the waist. It doesn't matter where we move it necessarily, whether it's in BIS or CIP. We still got to raise the taxes. I've looked at the numbers. We went to a full-time fire department in 2019. We've had full-time firemen since 2019, but we've never paid for them because taxes weren't raised. We are now almost, I think next year, Bo's not here, but I think next year we have our full complement of 10 firemen. I think you said one night, cost us $87,000 for every new fireman. So we built all of that and taxes have never been raised. Connie brought it out. The reason is we kept putting salaries in BIS and we kicked the can down the road. We gotta have a tax increase. I'm as tight as the next person out there. I don't want to raise taxes any more than we've got to, but we can't postpone it anymore because there's nowhere to, I won't use the word steal the money because I got chastised for that, to borrow the money. We're trying to, I keep referring to it as past tense, is we've let BIS absorb expenses rather than, and those were decisions that were, everybody made them for the right reasons at the time, but we're trying to get it right. We have to have a tax increase. My question is the magnitude of it. Is, Frank, we had a discussion with the financial advisors and they said 8 cents. And I agreed with that and was reconciled to it. Now it's suddenly gone to 11 and I don't have all the transparency and clarity. And I said it earlier this week to agree on 11% increase. I think we still have more things we need to look at and questions we need to ask. So mine's not a rejection of the budget. It's what is the magnitude of the tax increase? There's got to be a tax increase.
Just to fill you, we raised taxes when we hired firemen.
We raised it.
We raised taxes when we've hired firemen. That was not funded by anything but tax dollars.
I don't think so.
It did not come out of BIS. It did not come out of any fund. It came out of tax increase.
We have a motion on the table. Have a second. So vote. All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
So 2-2. Mayor gets the vote. I vote aye.
We didn't get a vote. Is it here?
Presentation of.
Right.
We can knock it out here. I'm done. At least we'll have it. The issue we discussed today.
I'm done.
I'll follow this.
I don't know, but I don't think we'll be able to pass this one out. We have this company. Is that company?
I thought you were talking about factors. This.
You absolutely tax rate to have a budget.
And I thought we do not have all the answers on the salary study and.
We can deal with variations in salary studies in the budget that's been presented, I believe. That might be budget amendments during the year, but. There's no, I mean, the money is in the budget. What we're talking
What
about
you're
now,
approving,
we're
if you
gonna
go read what you're approving, you're accepting all of that, John. I don't think that is You just need to know, is that truly your intent? And I'll show you the section.
Here we go. Yeah, we're coming at 12 o'clock. This is 15.
You
can make changes in the tax rate.
You're a friend. I think that's what you intend, is what you intend. That you're signing off, when you approve this, you're signing off on that.
We can change that, we can change
It is approved. You cannot change it. This is the budget. This is what you're approving, is the budget order. Correct? That's correct?
Budget ordinance.
Well, I don't think that's correct.
There are two motions. One is for the tax rate and one is for the budget ordinance. It's in the cover sheet.
Those go hand in hand. How can you approve?
There are two motions.
Well, one impacts the other one. So how do you? I mean, basically, if you put one, you represent the other one, if that's your intent. But I'm not against that.
My understanding, wherever it's what. Format. Format, they propose all municipalities. Not saying which was
So the format is, when you approve the tax rate, you have approved the ordinance approving the budget.
That's my understanding. Format manages.
And I just want to be sure my fellow commissioners understand what that means. If you don't, fine. What you are doing when you do that, which is approving all of the ordinance that is in. Salary survey, the increases, all of that, that is then rubber stamp, that that's your intent. I just want to be sure you understand that.
think you're having, the salary increase, you're not having to say necessarily.
That's what Mr. Cochran told us with the,
You're approving the amount of money in there for the salary increase. You haven't approved.
read section 22 of the ordinance.
When we take money out of the uncommitted funds in the general fund, we do it by.
We're not talking the same thing. that
We are. I think we are. Well, we have a line in there that says appropriated fund balance. Right, Connie? And that's basically money that we're gonna take out of the general fund and say now it's committed to, doing whatever how we get the line added up.
The proposed budget that you have in front of you has $429,000 out of fund balance.
We would have to change that to a larger number if we, want to take more money out of the uncommitted funds.
Well, right now, it does have the salary study in it, if that's what you're referring to, or the thing that we've talked about. That's how the budget was balanced with the revenues that we had and the tax rate that we were proposing. So it is all the payroll salary study, option one is included, plus the COLA, plus the 3% merit. You know.
Well, I think my point is that if we don't want, we've already set the tax rate. Yeah.
There was a motion on the floor.
Is suitable for that tax rate that we set.
Yes, sir. That the tax rate that was set includes everything that we've discussed.
And that is rubber stamping and approving that. And if that's, I just want to be sure you understand that
So if we went in there, it's just like if we went in there and said, if we came and said, okay, we're gonna fire the whole town staff. And I'm gonna say, let's say example, I'm saying, we say, we're gonna fire the whole town staff, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna build this town staff different. Then, I mean, it's nothing, since we couldn't do that. Nothing, I mean, nothing said we couldn't do that, because I mean, I'm just saying, I'm just saying if we wanted to fire all the public work people, or, you know, I'm just saying, we're talking about salaries, so I'm just saying, I mean, all you have to do is, I mean, we're not rubber stamping that, we're just, no, we're not rubber stamping, because we can adjust it like we want to there.
Give him the courtesy of being able to talk, please. And the order.
I'm just saying, yeah, look, we're not rubber stamping, it's just like with any other expense we got in there. We're saying we're putting that on, but we're not saying we're having to spend that money just like anything else, just like in public works or anything like that. Only money we're committed to is like our money, which we have to spend on those. Any of the other money, we don't have to spend it. It's like you said, it's all one big pot of money. And we can move that money, as long as we're paying our expenses, we
Not
can
in
move that money
this, not
around.
in this. It is, it's in black and white, and this is, we're signing off on all of the changes to the,
I don't agree. I mean, that's your choice.
no, I'm telling you, that's what this
How do you know any better? No, I said, stop saying that.
well, let's ask our lawyer at the end of the day.
We ain't gonna let the lawyer do it.
Yeah, call it,
Well, ask Mr. Coggins, your question, if you aren't sure, Joe, is what is being voted on approves everything in the budget ordinance and the tax rate. Am I correct?
The local government ordinance, specifically General Statute 159-13, regarding the ordinance, lays out in detail what must be within your budget ordinance. My knowledge, the budget that's presented to you conforms to that format, as I've done in my experience as your account attorney. The latter part of that particular statute also says the important budget ordinance of local government shall levy taxes on property and rates that will produce the revenue necessary. Balance provisional revenues, which indicates to me that that's a separate action that is taken. It's all part and parcel of the ordinance process. So your adoption of tax rate beforehand is in conformance with what I read in this particular statute. And again, separate motion that is now before you, talking about adoption of budget is in compliance with the statute. Now, if there's a statute that says that goes and says that when you adopt a budget, are you adopting a budget that all that matters is support that budget? The answer probably is that yes, but to go back to the initial presentation, in the end, a budget is documented subject to amendment. It is mutable. Local governments can and do frequently amend budgets. I don't know how I can better answer the question. The contours of the law, if you would, the sidelines of the game are there. I don't see anything that indicates to me clearly that what's going on here is outside the sidelines and the end zones. What's imposed on you by the general secretary.
That's let me ask you a question, Steve. We do it in wrong order. Pass the budget. Then the tax rate.
The statute doesn't govern that. The statute just simply says this is what has to come. There has to be a budget, and we have to specify what the tax rate is. Does it say, does it have to be done in a separate document or in the same document? It does not.
All right, let me try this. If I withdraw the motion and the fact that it's already passed or whatever, and you do the budget itself first, back later and set tax rate.
That's probably not appropriate. I don't see how you adopt a budget without also specifying the tax rate.
So, because what's your recourse if there are more questions?
Have to be a demonstration. To be able to finance the expenditures. That's what we're-
But the question there was, how much money do we, move into a line called the appropriated fund balance? So that controls how much money is available as revenue, right? Connie? If we change the appropriated fund balance on the general fund, to a different number, then that's gonna impact the revenue that's available depending on the tax rate,
That's correct.
right? So if we, it means we need to make the decision first on how much the appropriated fund balance is gonna be. And then we set the tax rate in order to get the amount of revenue that we need. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That makes sense?
Yes, sir, I think.
There's a,
That's gonna take us back to the shell game argument. Are we gonna move the money out of the general fund into the out of capital reserve, into unassigned funds, right?
so here's a suggestion. On the budget ordinance, you can remove section 22. We can come back and have that discussion later. And we can approve the budget without section 22 in it.
Tell me what section 22 is.
That is the salary study. I believe that's. Yeah.
I don't think the salary study is what's in question here. How much money are we going to take out of? Well, that's because it was listed in this overall.
Section 22 says, the proposed implementation strategy, option 1 of the human resources study conducted by the MAPS group and presented May 2025 is hereby adopted, and all recommendations made to the town's personnel policy and grade and classification sheet. So what we're saying, if that is a discussion item, and that we could go ahead and at least get our tax rate set and approved, we could remove this section 22. It could be discussed at a later date.
But they kind of go hand in hand, do they not?
They don't go into July.
No. It was basically until we decide on what the study's gonna be, it's frozen.
But it's in the budget.
It's in the budget.
And you've raised the taxes to cover it, so they go hand in hand.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
In our meeting with, Triumph,
It's just nothing, because the
we,
rate's already in
or
there.
they also proposed within $500,000 reserved over to BIS or someone else, HC. Is that included in the 11% that we were talking about?
Everything is included in the 11%.
That includes the $500,000 shift.
And First Trine felt strongly it should go into CIP, not BIS, because
Correct.
BIS is a dynamic fund. And what happened is you took 2 cents out of CIP and moved it to BIS, because it's
Static.
6 of one and a half dozen of the other. You get an extra 2 cents or you get a $500,000. It doesn't, in my opinion, make a difference which you get. That makes sense, Connie?
So when we met with Triumph, they agreed on the 8.5 cents increase.
I believe it was 8 cents. Was
8
it?
cents.
Was, I wasn't present.
Yeah.
So,
It was 8.
so second, but again, when you met with First Tryon, you did not have the salary information.
Right.
And that's what brought it up to 11 cents. So it's 3 cents. That's why we went from 31 and a half in the general fund to 34 and a half.
So can you hit the pause button and ask more questions? Because once this is done, it's done.
So again, the
We gotta
suggestion
get it by
section,
June 30th. I know
that,
that.
again, we talked about that. We know that we can come back and have this as long as we do it by June 30th.
And I don't want to create any more work for Connie, but I want us to get it right because we owe that to our citizens.
So again, the suggestion is take section 22 out of the budget ordinance and approve the rest of it tonight at 48. And we can come back on section 22, but you've already, no?
The tax rate is set. You guys motioned and approved, it passed. Now, the budget ordinance also needs to be approved. I think the question is the salary study. You could remove section 22. The funds will be there if you approve it. If not, then there's an overage in the salaries.
I don't think it's a question, it's a question of understanding it. That's not, because I don't want y'all to think, God, those typhoids don't want to get us raised. It's not at all. It was a lot thrown all at us all at one time.
You know.
Yeah.
Yes, you
Say,
can.
oops, never mind.
Let me, if I can, suggest a procedure set forth in your rules of procedure. You are empowered to entertain a motion to, reconsider. Okay, and that, upon the passage of that, you could then be in a position regarding the vote to approve the tax rate. Okay, to reconsider that. In other words, to just, to rescind that action, so there was no action taken. And then you also have the ability to file and to commit a motion to postpone consideration to a certain time or day. Okay, where you can then, upon appropriate study and have more information that you desire, to then vote on the budget in a format in which this board is coming. Whether it's to approve the tax rate and the budget in one motion, resolution, or separate it out however you want to do it. Okay, you are empowered to do that.
All right, so the first thing we need to do is do a
First
recess.
is a reconsideration, rescission of the immediate prior vote. Okay, approving the tax rate.
And is it appropriate for me to make that motion?
It's appropriate for you.
I move that, my previous motion, be rescinded and that we do a reconsideration, at a later date to
I
be
second.
defined, which I think is April 17th or, June 17th.
At 10 o'clock.
At 10 o'clock, June 17th. All right.
I second.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part. Can you repeat that?
We're going to reconsider, the budget on tax rate, June 17th.
You need to add into that the action of approving the tax rate is rescinded. You do that first, okay?
I think that was there.
I'm not sure I heard that. Part.
Okay.
It was about-
Mayor, I move that we extend the previous action of setting the tax rate and that we then reconvene on June 17th at 10 o'clock to finalize the budget discussion.
Have a motion,
I second.
have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So we have a follow-up meeting on workshop, or what do we want to call it, June 17th at 10 o'clock. So maybe we have some good questions answered and have a better understanding for the board. So if I may, Mayor, it would be helpful to us if we could have some sort of,
Give you the question.
I'm sorry.
Tell you what the question.
Yeah, because we haven't, because I understand that you all have had some concerns, but no one has come to us to ask them about it in the last 10 days. And so we maybe could have answered some of these questions before tonight.
And that is a valid concern.
So I'm just putting that out there. I'd rather not get to the 17th, which is in 6 days, and the questions come to us in the meeting. Let's have the questions in advance if we could, and then we can be prepared. We were prepared to answer some of these questions tonight, had they been asked. based on what we heard through the grapevine, but not because anyone came to us and asked us anything. So, which is regular.
And, one other thing, can we possibly have Tryon available if we have questions of the?
We can ask if they're available. They typically are. We can certainly ask them to be available.
Okay. All right.
We're gonna try to agree to a set of questions or some parameters before June 17th, as a group
That's
here.
what he just said, yeah.
Well, we need to have agreement that we can reach decisions as a group. And we're gonna send him some questions.
And that's not to say that you won't have additional questions the day of. I expect that. I'm just saying if there's, some core questions that you have now that then, let's go ahead and,
Well, my vision would be that we send you a couple of options to be prepared. One at an 8-cent tax rate and one at the tax rate we talked about tonight and we're not comfortable with.
Okay.
And you present us with a balanced budget at both of those tax rates.
That's asking Connie. Connie's like, yeah. There's a simpler way to do it,
Go ahead, Nancy.
John, which is really, I think what we need to do is have a discussion with First Trine and be sure we're meeting their objectives and that what we're looking at still provides Connie the ability to give a balanced budget without making us violate the parameters that are out there, like the 50% threshold, et cetera.
Are you available Monday morning?
I'll be available Monday morning.
I am.
Okay, so I think we only have two.
All right,
Monday morning, if we get Tryon.
so we're still having the public meeting
Public meeting.
on
on
Tuesday.
Tuesday,
Okay, all right.
I think we can
Monday
resolve.
morning,
Start at 10.
Let me just double check my calendar. See what I have to move.
I was looking that up. I think it would be worthwhile for you to quote a particular sentence out of the act, guidance, software.
Budget ordinance may be in any form governing board considers most efficient, enabling it to make fiscal policy decisions embodied therein. But it shall make appropriations by department, function, or project and show revenues by major source. That's what I meant about it sets these sidelines, if you would, in the end zone. Right? What was proposed to you tonight was probably well within those boundaries that this mandate here that's imposed upon you by the General Assembly. But that doesn't mean you can't adopt them. As long as makes appropriations by department, function, or project and show revenues by major source.
Monday morning at 10.
Yes.
Monday morning at 10 o'clock. Good. Hey, Brody.
right, yeah.
Before Brody starts, I don't know if I'm responsible for this unnecessarily long discussion tonight by jumping ahead with the tax rate issue. I had certainly, regret having caused, such a long discussion and taking up your time, if I did that, and I apologize. It may have been my fault, but not 100%, because I made a quick tax rate recommendation. But I appreciate your patience very much.
So,
Are we all gonna leave? Yeah.
so I'm just gonna go ahead real quick and introduce, Brody Andrews. For those of you who don't know, Brody's a fellow from UNC School of Government. Been with us since August. Yep. Last year we had Ryan Bullard here that, started on our emergency operations plan. Again, as a quick reminder, we had a plan from 2014 that needed serious updating. It was mainly a hurricane plan. We asked for an all hazards plan. We came up with about 25 different hazards. And so Ryan had gotten us to about 50%. We knew this was a very lengthy project over multiple year span. So Ryan is kind of picked up where Brody has picked up where Ryan left off. And I'm dying to hear what percent he thinks we're at. I don't know that he's gonna have an answer for that. But we are in a much better place today with our emergency operations planning than we were 2 years ago at this time. And it's thanks to the fellows that we have brought in to be able to focus on this project while we focus on other things like budget and things of that nature. So anyway, Brody,
I'll take it away.
it's your show.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Brody, as Doug mentioned, and I'm here to just kind of give you all a little update on the emergency operations plan for fiscal year 24-25. If you want to get the next slide for me. So it's just a little bit of a kind of overview. This is 13 slides, and then we're out of here. So just kind of go over projects identified in August 2024. When I got here, kind of a refresher on the incident command system, which is what overlooks all of these policies and projects, kind of how these projects were completed, and how this applies to the town of Topsail Beach during emergency response, and then what's coming with our HR fellow Maggie in August of 2020. Just as a general security statement, so any tactical information, movements of people, resources, things of that nature, will not be discussed in the presentation. That can be found in our internal version of the emergency operations plan, so it's town staff only. This is just a way to ensure that we don't have what we like to call bad actors in the emergency management field get hold of crucial tactical information so we can operate as efficiently as possible without any sort of boarding on anybody else's part. All right, just a kind of a brief review of the incident command system. It's just a standardized system used by all municipalities, including state, federal, and local. During an emergency disaster response, it uses a set terminology and verbiage to ensure interoperability of mutual aid agreements. So us with Pender County, us with Surf City, us with the state of North Carolina, us with the federal government, all of those lovely agencies. Just to ensure that everybody's operating on the same radio system, everybody has the same terminology, so there's no miscommunication, no wrong movements of resources, people, things of that nature. So all projects, that I've been working on are based out of the systems. All the set terminology is the same. That includes both in the standard operating guidelines that I've been working on and the EOP, both public and internal. So everything is the same across the board. And then just kind of a little bit more on the incident command system. Yeah, you're good, Michelle. Sorry. This is just kind of a basic structure of everything. So the incident commander can be anybody from Doug or Bo, who's not here, police chief, Tommy at Pender County Emergency Management, NC Tactical Response Teams, anything of that nature. Anybody is deemed qualified enough to look over the incident or hazard essentially that has happened. That's anybody who can run incident command. I also just wanted to touch on finance and administration, probably not the best meeting for that. But wrote that this morning and I realized that might have been a slip up, but that's okay. Essentially what finance and administration does, that those people are essentially keeping town functions running. So billing, water, stuff like that. And ensuring, we're also submitting forms to whatever governing body, whether that's FEMA or whatever's coming. So we can ensure that we get our funding back after emergency response. All right, so just a few of the projects we identified back in August of 2024. These are all ones that we deemed that were posed the highest threat to the town. So in our emergency operations plan, you'll see something called a threat profile, and it deems the likelihood of any of these things happening to the town of Topsail Beach. So I won't name off every single one of them. These are the ones that I've been working on for the past year since August. So And essentially what I've been working on is the standard operating guidelines. And I kind of want you to imagine you're in an aircraft, your engine goes out. Aircraft pilots, they have this manual that they can flip to, and it has essentially checklists of who's doing what, how to complete that action, so we can ensure, quick emergency responses. That's essentially what these guidelines are. And that has essentially who's doing what. That can be from the IC to the liaison, logistics officer, finance administration, everybody that's accounted for in those. So these are just kind of a list of everything that I've been working on so far. And then this is kind of to go into a little bit as to how you take care of these. So we identified these hazards, and these are very research intensive projects. So it's a lot of just Googling, emailing, cold calling, looking into news articles, seeing what worked. This year was, I don't like to use the term cool, but it was a very, important year for emergency management with everything that happened in the western part of the state with Hurricane Helene and then the LA wildfires. There was a lot of opportunity for me to kind of look in to see if the best practices for any of these hazards and just how we conduct ourselves during disasters in general has changed. So, it's a lot of research. And then if I ever found myself kind of getting stumped, it's either reaching out to, James Horn down at Surf City, he's their emergency management director, Tommy Batson, to kind of get an understanding of, okay, like this is a problem that I've run into. How do y'all handle this? I've reached out to people in Manio, a lot of coastal communities and stuff like that, even people at the state level, to kind of help me, kind of guide me through those projects. And then I take those findings and essentially write and scale it down to our needs. That's the great thing about the incident command system and how we write everything. So there are 5 activation levels, and you can kind of write these however you see fit. And that's, for me, I just decided to kind of do a blanket and let's just make it as worse as possible, play a little devil's advocate, but and kind of just ensure that, God forbid, the worst case happens, we have the ability to handle anything that is thrown our way. And then, after kind of writing and applying this research, it's really just a lot of reviewing and updating as needed. Recently, we kind of went over as y'all know, we had a aircraft landing about 2 weeks ago. Me and Doug kind of looked over the plan just to make sure that we had everything in place, and we didn't need to make any changes at this time. So that's good to go. So I feel pretty good about that one. And that's just kind of the general cycle of this. It's just a lot of, okay, this happened here. Like, it doesn't even necessarily need to happen here for us to consider reviewing and updating. It could happen to one of our neighbors in the western part of the state, or just anywhere realistically. So it's just a lot of just reviewing and updating. So, and that's just kind of the cycle of emergency management. So next slide. This is just kind of a slide to discuss, some people who have really helped me out in these projects. Special shout out to John Gunter and our fellow in Henderson County, Nora Shuey. She did a lot of really great work in the western part of the state during Hurricane Helene. She worked out of their emergency operations center for 2 weeks. So she had a ton of really valuable information for me to kind of help round out these projects. So this is just kind of, give you an idea of who I'm calling, kind of what this looks like, and where I'm getting my information from. So this is just kind of going over, how these guidelines and these policies, how they work in emergency management. So they further increase, the town of Topsail Beach's ability to respond to all types of emergencies, provide municipal governments with a detailed response to specific hazards that pose a threat to their jurisdiction. A little bit more, these are a lot more in-depth than our emergency operations plan. They just have a little bit more hazard specific information. So it just goes a little bit more in depth. The emergency operations plan is kind of a blanket statement, if that makes sense, in terms of how we handle everything in those annexes. So if you were to look at our public version of the emergency operations plan, we have hazard specific annexes in them. And these SOGs kind of complement those as well. So it just adds a lot of extra capacity to handle this things. They also, promote the updating of standard operating procedures at the department level. So police, fire, public works, anything that, anything at their department level on how they operate day to day, if those need to be updated, so. And this is just kind of how they work in action. So we have our disaster incident that occurs, we determine our activation level, then we move in with the initial response with our operating guidelines, see if there's anything specifically that we need to do to handle it, and then move into our response with the town's emergency operations plan. And as we respond, we just kind of integrate these two plans together. Then we announce when the response phase is completed, begin the recovery phase. And as stated in our EOP, there's an entire annex on that. If you guys want to take a look at that, I believe that is public. It should be public. And then we just, again, with the emergency management cycle, it's just a lot of reviewing and updating as needed. So. So pretty much everything that was listed at the beginning of the presentation, I've been able to complete. That leaves us at about 85, 90%. So, and the ones that are left are things that would take an act of a higher being to happen here. So, 9 point something magnitude earthquakes, torrential winter storms, I mean, of biblical nature, things like that. So, yeah, happening. But in terms of, I think, kind of reviewing where I've left the town, I feel pretty good about where we're at.
Did you get the flash mob in there?
Flash mob, no flash mob.
Okay.
No zombie apocalypse, none of that stuff. But I mean, yeah. So I think the original number we had was 24. We've gotten 21 of those done. So town staff will just kind of continue to monitor and update if anything changes. And God forbid we have something of that biblical nature, we'll be able to write it and be ready for it. So,
if I could add to Brody's presentation, I've had an experience in the past in writing these plans, and they are quite large, and they are a living document. They constantly change. Like Brody mentioned in the plane landing that occurred here 2 weeks ago on the beach, we immediately went to our plan just to make sure that there were no changes that needed to be made. When Hurricane Helene hit in the western part of the county, state, there were a variety of hot washes that occurred and found errors and mistakes and things they did. And so, I urge you all, because I know that reading the budget presentation and the budget message is a favorite at night before you go to bed. I would argue that this would be similarly enjoyable for you to read. But we've heard some comments here in the last several months, as we've been discussing the public safety building and what we need and what we don't, and the emergency operations center and things of that nature. So I urge you to read and understand what NIMS is and ICS is, the National Incident Management Systems, and ICS is Incident Command Systems, and understand what our requirements are in order to be able to handle an incident. And make sure that you all understand that all of our employees are considered essential, and depending on the activation, would be required to be on site. There is no remote. I can't guarantee that if you're working from home that you're going to have power, that you're going to have internet, that you're going to have the ability to get to us after the storm has passed in order to help us. That happened in Hurricane Florence. So the idea of working remotely for our employees in a Florence is not an option. So that's why we have our folks come to EOC. They all have functions because our public works and our police and our fire are out on 12-hour shifts after a Hurricane Florence and an activation. Well, when they come back to the EOC and they have paperwork and documentation and receipts they have to submit, they don't want to have to sit down and do that paperwork. When they want to come back for a hot meal, they don't want to have to buy the groceries and shop for it and cook it. So that's what our other staff, they are essential because they have other functions. And there's much more to it than that. So I just, again, when you have time, I urge you to read the public version of our emergency operation plan and all the things that go into it. And it's never a complete document, never. It's a living, breathing, constantly moving document. So I did also want to take this time to thank Brody. I know this was a very interesting year for you to be here.
It was.
I'll just say it that way.
Bringing in Hurricane Debbie was really not good.
Well, yeah, I think it was your first day.
It was.
Your first day, Debbie was here. We've had 2 mayors that have passed away since you've been here. We're not blaming it on you though, Brody.
I really, burning some sage in the office.
But I mean, between that and the budget situation and our public safety building and all these things that we've had, that this has been a challenging year for all of us. And Brody has sat there in front row seat to watch all of this and still try to concentrate on his job and what he's here to do. So I'm actually going to apologize to you because I don't feel though that we gave you the attention that you needed, but you took it anyway and you ran with it. Because we have been very focused on a lot of other things. So,
I mean, this is part of the game,
Yeah.
It happens.
So, but anyway, Friday's
last day.
is your last day.
Yep.
So Brody Friday is his last day. We might have some treats or something to that effect on Friday. And then, we wish you well. Where are you going, Brody?
I'm headed to UNC for the MPA program. So
There you go.
who knows? I might be back. You might see me. I might come back around. Who knows? I just hope I've earned my local status.
You have, but that does not get you a parking hang.
I'm really hoping I'm going to be able to bypass that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got one more slide. It's just a little kind of just a brief kind of introduction to Maggie. She is the next fellow who will be replacing me in August 2025. She is a Moorhead Kane Scholar, which for the people who have been to UNC, or I think people just know, it's one of, or if not the highest undergraduate honor that you can receive at UNC Chapel Hill. A lot of our fellows this year are Moorhead Kane Scholars, so a lot of local governments. I don't. Is Sandyfield? They're in Columbus County, aren't they? Sandyfield.
Good question.
But regardless, there's going to be a ton of really great people coming into public service in this next fiscal year. So, her work's going to kind of consist of writing the town's research policy, as Doug mentioned earlier in this meeting. These are just kind of ways to ensure that the town is really operating at the highest level. Ensure that we are doing our due diligence. So that's kind of be a big project that she's going to take on. So I'll be kind of around like a ghost.
Surfing?
Probably.
Yeah.
Mr. Schneider, I hope you're okay with that.
I did want to mention that on Maggie, who will be here in August, we were fortunate to have 2 Moorhead Kane Scholars that interviewed for this role, and we had a very difficult time choosing between the 2. So it was quite impressive. So.
All right. Well, that's it, y'all. We did it. Oh, any questions? We forgot about questions.
Good job.
Thank you.
Nice knowing you.
Go Heels, baby. He's already wrapped up.
Okay, manager attorney's report.
Mr. Mayor, reports of the past month, I reviewed on behalf of town president staff, these 4 contracts, research the reality of donations to the town. Palo cellular leases for the analysis of the cellular infrastructure that the board is undertaking now. And I have worked with staff on implementing changes of review of parking tokens. Now, no, it's not addressed very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be very brief. I did want to thank Mr. Coggins again. We seem to continue to make him earn his money for sure by sending him contract after contract after contract for review, and very responsive all the time. As I've mentioned to you over the years, I very much appreciate a responsive attorney. So thank you for that. Just real quick on interest earned over the last month. We earned $31,448.51 to our North Carolina cash management. We've exceeded our projected interest for the year, totaling, we're currently at $361,112.91. On the public safety building, which we put into a separate fund, we earned $30,071.44. This past month, year to date, we are at $348,946.79. We will not make our projected revenue budget for that fund, which is why in the budget that we proposed tonight, you saw one of the reasons why you saw a reduction in revenues. That was one area. There were several others. I did want to go over the parking revenue. In the month of May, we made $30,578 compared to last year in May. It was $11,639. So what is that, about $18,000 or $19,000 increase? The year before that was $8,642, and the year before that was $10,532. The breakdown, which we have this time, the breakdown for beach accesses for the month of May was $18,436. For the south end was $11,162.
And that's net, not gross.
That is correct.
That's in our pocket.
That is correct. I can tell you the gross numbers if you'd like it. It's in the packet though.
It's in the.
It's in the packet. And then for all other violations, $980. So, just wanted to put that out there. And, other than that, the other items that they're in the packet, because we're doing that now where the manager report is in the packet. I'm just hitting the highlights. Good. So those are the highlights. Thank you.
Okay, public comment. Anyone?
There's a margarita machine outside the door. Right.
Mayor and Commissioner report. Nancy, you want to start?
I just want to say thank you to all your hardcores are out there and understand. Kind of like family, sometimes it may get ugly, but all of us were working hard to try to do the very best by you, our residents, that we possibly can. And when we have questions, I think sometimes it's better to pause and make sure the questions are answered and then move forward cleanly and straightforwardly. So all that you saw tonight was trying to make sure we make the right decisions and don't have to come back and revisit them. Thank you all for your patience.
Don?
Well, first, I'd just like to say a bit about the decision that was made at the last meeting that Nancy and I, working with Frank and the town administrative staff, would work with Thomas about this public safety building. In one of the comments that came in to the website, there was kind of an indirectly expressed concern that, because I've been an advocate of option one, the most expensive option, that I would still try to push for something like that as we had discussions. And I was one of the ones asked to be part of those discussions. And I'd like to make it clear, if it's not already, that I have clearly received the message from the residents and public that option one is not desired, and the possible tax increase along with that is very undesirable. And I have heard that, and I accept that message, and I will work with the others I just named on the public safety building design to do what's best for our residents. And we, Nancy and I know are committed to working with the other commissioners over the next few weeks, hopefully not much longer than that, to get to a design that everybody will be excited about. So if you were worried about me being on that group, I'm going to try and take the comments that led to rejection of option one very seriously. So much on that. I'm glad we're at the end of the budget discussion, in case we're not. Again, I apologize for, having stretched out the discussion tonight. If I made, an inappropriate early, motion on the tax rate. I don't like long discussions and discussions that, just seem endless, go nowhere. I'm sorry that happened, and hopefully, between next few days and, maybe, sometime midweek next week, we will get this budget pinned down, and try to keep the tax rate at something that is more or less acceptable, to everybody. It won't be, but, we're gonna do our best. Appreciate your attention tonight.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask staff to, put on the agenda for next month, the discussion, for a bulkhead ordinance, height ordinance. If you do some research on that, there are the, waterfront communities that have it already, so I'm sure we can look at duplicating some of the other ones, or at least review and consider. Thanks for everybody for hanging out for way too long. Enjoy your 4th of July.
Good. I can get away, I think, great. Do appreciate everyone coming out, and like taxes are not fun any time for anybody. I mean, we all hate to pay taxes. I pay taxes as much as anybody does. I think, part of the reason, like we said years ago, we tried our best not to raise, we did not raise taxes. We moved money around, and that kind of got us in trouble this year. And, so I think we're trying to figure a way out, and that in the future, we won't have that same kind of problem. And like John was saying, if we can put money in different departments and kind of legal rather than trying to move around, because it's easy when you need money to move it from one thing to the other and say we're going to repay it. And like John was saying earlier, we tried to repay that money back for the BIS, but along kind of eased us, and that kind of threw us all in a bad situation. Like I said, I think we got a good board. I think we'll work it out. We'll get the right solution taken care of, and we'll have a good time.
I just want to say one additional thing, Frank. This is briefly alluded to tonight in the tax discussion. A big factor was the fact that we did not get the expected reimbursement from FEMA of $4 or $5 million after the last hurricane. If we had gotten what we had expected to get and planned for, we wouldn't be in the fix we are now. But the beach renourishment is very important, and we need to stick with whatever we have to do as residents to pay for this thing. So we got hurt, and we'll try to get through it.
Appreciate everybody coming and hanging with us tonight. Sometimes it gets very confusing and we get bogged down, but we have to let it play out and get everybody involved in it. And even though we don't all agree, we come to a solution that's probably best for the time. And that's the intent of us being up here. Again, appreciate everybody here, and please have a great 4th and a safe one. Thank you. I hear a motion. Second, all in favor?
I don't remember.